There are moments in life that arrive with such an exquisite quietude, so unexpectedly that the world seems to hold its breath. For Noah, that precise, suspended beat landed on a warm summer evening, bathed in the golden, dissolving light of a Nashville sunset. The air was soft, carrying the faint, earthy scent of freshly cut grass, a familiar comfort that settled on his skin. He stood beside Claire, a woman whose presence had woven itself into the fabric of his days over the years, her proximity a quiet hum he'd grown accustomed to. Then, she leaned in, a fraction closer than usual, and a tremor in her voice, barely perceptible, touched him before her words did. It was a question so innocent, yet it vibrated with an unspoken intensity that shattered the gentle stillness of the moment. "Tell me how babies are made." For a second, Noah's own breath caught a sudden, almost painful constriction in his chest. It wasn't the biology of the question that startled him. It was the raw, trembling fear he sensed beneath it. He tried to steady his voice, a low murmur about Google being a good teacher. But beneath the surface, a deeper current swirled. Claire wasn't one for casual inquiry. Behind her soft, hesitant smile lay a past etched with shadows, a terrain Noah had witnessed but never fully navigated. They walked slowly along the white fence, their footsteps a soft brush against the gravel. The ache in Noah's chest tightened, a familiar tenderness for her. He remembered her arrival 3 years prior, a quiet woman with 2 suitcases and a gaze that suggested a long journey, an escape from something heavy. Over time, she'd become a ritual, morning runs that became shared confessions, coffee on his porch in the early light, late-night talks under the stars that spoke of dreams and unspoken fears. Yet, whenever the conversation drifted towards family, motherhood, or the landscape of love, Claire would retreat, a wounded bird seeking the shadows. She carried the echoes of a chaotic Nebraska childhood, where warmth was a foreign concept and safety a fleeting dream. Her parents had never offered the gentle rhythms of affection, leaving her with invisible scars. Noah saw them in her lingering hesitation before trusting, in the subtle flinch at a raised voice, in the desperate way she filled her loneliness with knowledge books, documentaries, fervent research. She was trying to comprehend a world that had offered her so little kindness. But the tenderness of creating a family, that terrified her, not because she didn't yearn for it, but because she feared she'd repeat the fractured patterns of her past. As they reached the end of the fence, Claire's arms wrapped tightly around herself, a small, protective gesture. It wasn't embarrassment that tightened her posture, Noah realized, but a profound dread of the answer. He sensed a deeper truth in her trembling words. She wasn't asking about biology. She was asking about the alchemy of love, the slow, brave weaving of trust, the fragile beginnings of a family. She was asking how one could gather the courage to build something beautiful in a world that had once broken them. He stood quietly beside her, letting the silence stretch, hoping the evening breeze would offer the comfort he couldn't yet articulate. The unspoken hung between them, a delicate thread of burgeoning understanding. The next morning, the air still cool and dewy, Noah knocked on Claire's door with 2 coffees and a plan he'd pieced together with a hopeful uncertainty. If she sought answers, he would offer her something richer, experiences that might gently show her what safety, warmth, and family truly felt like. He led her to a small, family-run diner, where the owners greeted every customer like a long-lost friend. Claire watched, her gaze lingering, as they moved in an effortless harmony, wiping tables, pouring coffee, their laughter, a familiar melody of years of shared understanding. He saw her eyes soften, a tiny crack appearing in the guarded shell of her heart. After breakfast, he took her to a community park, alive with the joyful chaos of families. Parents pushed swings, children chased shimmering bubbles, grandparents captured fleeting moments with their phones. Claire said little, but the way she watched, her expression, a fragile mixture of longing and fear, told Noah everything. She yearned for connection, for a love she believed herself unworthy of, yet couldn't help but ache for. Over the weeks that followed, a subtle, beautiful transformation began in Claire. She volunteered at the local shelter, her hands gentle with the animals. She baked for neighbors, leaving warm, fragrant gifts on their doorsteps. Her walks with Noah grew longer, filled with thoughtful questions about life, about love, about the kind of people they wanted to become. Noah never pushed, never forced, He simply remained a steady presence, offering the consistent, gentle closeness she had never known. And in the quiet evenings on her porch, as the crickets sang their ancient song and the sky bled into hues of purple and deep indigo, Claire found herself leaning into him, not just physically, though the subtle shift of her weight, the accidental brush of their shoulders, became more frequent, more natural. She leaned into him emotionally, spiritually, vulnerably, allowing the space between them to soften, to shrink. His presence became a steady anchor in the growing intimacy of her healing. But healing is never a smooth path. One night, after returning from a vibrant family festival, Claire broke. She sat on her couch, hands pressed against her face, sobs racking her slender frame. The day's joyous tapestry had awakened something raw and painful within her, a stark reminder of everything she never had, everything she feared she could never give. Noah sat beside her, not speaking, just being there. Her tears soaked into the fabric of his shirt, a warm dampness against his skin. Her trembling breath eventually steadied, and she whispered, her voice raw, that she didn't know if she could ever be a good enough mother. She feared she would repeat the patterns of her childhood, or worse, scar the life of a child who deserved only goodness. Noah felt his heart twist, a deep, tender ache. He wanted to tell her, right then, that she already possessed more nurturing strength and gentle spirit than she knew. But he understood some beliefs needed to unravel slowly, carefully. Days bled into weeks, and Claire blossomed in ways she couldn't yet perceive, though everyone else could. She laughed more freely, a sound that resonated deep within Noah. She trusted more, her guard imperceptibly lowering. She allowed herself to dream, a fragile, hopeful light in her eyes. Then came another warm evening by the white fence, the place where their journey had quietly begun. Claire stood there, the golden light of dusk reflecting in her eyes, and she whispered again. This time, the question was different, imbued with a far greater bravery. She wanted to understand, not how babies were made, but how love was made, how families were truly formed, how she could someday become someone's safe harbor. Noah's throat tightened, a profound emotion swelling within him. She wasn't asking out of fear anymore. She was asking out of hope, a fragile, luminous hope that shone in her gaze. He offered no lecture, no sterile definition. Instead, his voice soft, almost a caress, he told her that families are forged through patience, through showing up on the difficult days, through forgiving, through choosing each other again and again. He told her that love begins in moments just like this, honest, unguarded, beautifully imperfect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and gentle purples, Claire realized something profound. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't irrevocably broken. She wasn't alone. She was beginning to believe that love was something she could build, something she deserved, something she could someday, tenderly, share with a child of her own. And as the first stars began to pierce the deepening Tennessee sky, Claire leaned into Noah. Profound surrender, not seeking answers, but finally ready for whatever beautiful beginning awaited her, held gently in the warmth of his presence.